Morning, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives. You go, tell me when to go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Perspectives. It is Tuesday, 24th May, 2022. We do regret that we couldn't host the program yesterday as we had some serious challenges here with our technical setup. And yeah, we had some this morning trying to get on the air. So we do regret that we're getting on at this time, 7:27. We should have been here 27 minutes earlier. For those of you who are joining us, we welcome you to the broadcast. I am Brenda Baptiste, and this morning the lone panelist I have with me is none other but Senator Christopher Deawi. You know, we're sorry we won't have Mr. Campbell with us this morning as he's a little bit under the weather. Good morning, Senator Deawi.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning to our viewers. Pleasure to be here, even though we have some little hiccups, but that's how life is. And we have people on platforms saying the wrong thing.
It's hiccup season.
It's hiccup season, even though, you go with all the best intentions. So happy to be here, happy with another great morning. So
indeed.
Indeed.
So we had some rains early this morning. We did have some rains come in.
We have an interesting dry season. Although the prediction from all the specialists are saying the expectation is to have a very active hurricane season. Mm-hmm. And we know it starts in earnest in June.
Right.
So we all have to be prepared and do the necessaries to get ourselves ready in the event of.
Yeah.
The latest stats say we're going to have 9 hurricanes, 3 to 4 are going to become more
major
than category
ones.
3, major ones over category 3.
Yeah.
And so the season is expected to be pretty active, so we need to be cautious and take all the precautions that we need to take. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we still have a fair amount of the Sahara dust that's coming over. Mm-hmm. I mean, even as we head into the season, and while it may present some challenges for folks with respiratory issues, it's a good thing because it keeps away storms from forming in the strength that they should. So, at least that gives us a little hope. That saved us last year, I think.
Yeah, and we have
a lot of things formed, but they didn't mature.
We have a lot of the seaweed issues too coming in with all the high winds and so on. We have had a significant amount of them coming in.
Indeed.
On shore, I think St. Andrews have been significantly impacted as well.
Yes.
With that
the eastern
sargassum weed. So it's one of those things that we just keep having the challenges, even as we get in silly season gets in high pitch fever.
At the beginning, right, I used to be like, why we call it silly season, yada yada yada, and then I started to see, but as we move along, I am even more convicted that it is indeed silly.
Yeah, and I mean the impact of social media on what happens on the platforms is also an interesting mode of communicating now, and people expressing their views, and sometimes it gets toxic to a high degree when you look at some of the comments on social media. But it just shows, Brenda, 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't that prevalent. It wasn't that, people wasn't expressing their views as they do now, and it's getting a little, probably as I say, extreme in some of the things that you see and you see on social media. I must indeed compliment the political parties, the main ones, the National Democratic Congress and the New National Party, that they have kept the rhetoric pretty much civilized. And you give the little peacocks here, but nobody seemed to be degrading the discussion to the point where it is getting personal and out of whack.
Agree.
So that is a good thing. And I just hope they could continue to keep it that way. And hopefully, as we get closer to the day, I know things will heat up even more, but let's hope they could keep it that way.
Yeah, I have to agree. From paying attention to both campaigns so far, especially when they have their massive events. I have not seen any degradation, if you will, or that sort of personal attacks. It's mostly picong. It's, you know, some of the things you'll hear them in a calypso tent. You know, I really have not heard anybody really going in for the jugular in that way, and I hope it stays that way. Conversely, their supporters are going for the jugular. And you mentioned social media. As you look on social media and you see interactions, one of my concerns with knowing some of the players involved in all the wrestling is that some relationships would not survive this because some people have gone too far.
And
They've
that's
stepped into a territory where they will not be able to repair their relationships because people have gotten highly personal, highly caustic.
And that is so unfortunate. You know, I always like to remind people, you know, when we were in the Senate and in the Senate, we debate hard from either side and so forth. But when we sit after the debate and we sit to have lunch, it's not about personal, it's all about, you know, you hold your view, you hold your side and you debate hard. And people don't see that background interaction, so they think, oh, we enemies when we're debating across the table, but after that we sit and we behave like good civilized people. It doesn't interfere with friendships.
Civilized, that's the word.
And that I think we need to take a little example about that. Yes, you could hold your side, yes, you could be, you know, supporting in a vigorous way, but you don't jeopardize the relationships you have with people because of a political view, particularly because of a political view.
Party politics, you let that interrupt friendships. I mean, sometimes you have experiences that are so disappointing that you have to draw the line, because at the end of the day, I always say to people, only a person knows how they feel when they are being personally attacked. So they may decide to react or respond in a particular way. But as I said, I am not sure. Grenada is so small. We already have a lot of interactions on the fringes because we feel strongly about the party politic. We feel strongly about the religion part. We feel strongly about sexuality. And let's not get away from it. We also operate in a class business too. And that is bringing itself forward in the politic as well. If you pay attention to what's being said, how it's being said, some of the demographic and how they're responding to it, that is also prevalent. And that is historically so, as much as we may try to deny it,
nothing
you know?
pretty much wrong with it. I mean, it's just that as we say, you need to be not extreme in some of the views where you damage relationships permanently or whatever. So, I mean, it's quite good for people to express themselves in whatever way they feel, but you know, you have to be careful because words can be like swords. And you have to be careful what you say in that. But now let's move it on. And what you thought about the launch of the Power Party?
The Power Party launched? Oh, yeah, right.
That's Ms. Rapier and her party.
Right, Andrea Rapier and her team. To be honest, the live came up. I was doing something. I think I was doing a report, or was I on Zoom? I can't remember. But the live came up from Pineapple Marketing, and I clicked on it, and then I saw them on the Shadowfax. It was a yacht, and I was trying to follow, but I got distracted, and I said to myself, I will go back because you know, it's in me to do that. I would go back and look at it in its entirety. I have not done that as yet, so I can't see. I know I saw, although I muted it and it was up, I saw Mr. Killer with the mic for most of it. So I was kind of like, okay, is this his party? What's going on here? Because he was on for a very long time. But I have to go back and hear, you know, what
But I thought the launch was unique. It was done on a yacht.
But why not? We live in dynamic times. Switch things up.
Yes, I thought it was unique from her point of view, and you know, Ms. Rapier.
I'm cool with that.
Ms. Rapier is well spoken. I mean, when you listen to her, she speaks well.
She is, Andrea.
Articulates herself very well.
I know Andrea from the Anglican High School. Andrea's family is the Cox. So she lived right around the Paddock area where the St. George's Baptist Church is. That's where Andrea grew up. And she's Cox and Rapier, of course. And now she's married with, you know, she went to the U.S. and she joined the U.S. Army and, you know, got herself very accomplished and so on. But I know her from school, and she's always been a very outgoing, very smart, very sociable.
You can assess that from how she discusses on issues and so on. However, the question is, you know, launching this late, and she doesn't have a full slate to contest all the constituencies. The issue is do you think that her impact politically will be significant at all, or would it attract people who are on the fence still?
Right.
And see whether or not she could, because in a two-party system, as we have more so essentially than normal here, do you think she can sway voters away from either party with her party and what she's going to articulate?
Well, I would like to look at it this way. I do not know her plans, or I do not know, the rationale for coming in now. But it may be a strategy of, let me just test the waters, get my feet wet. She probably, and her team, they probably analyzed that there is a space. They probably did some market research. Because say what you want, TGM proved that folks want something different. Had Dr. Patrick Antoine continued the way TGM was going, right? I think they probably would have, by now, they probably would have been able to field a candidate or two in certain areas because they were making inroads. Like in Northeast St. Andrew, they had people like Small Axe and all these people, there was an exodus, if you will, from disenfranchised folks from one party that, kind of started to hug up the TGM, if you will. So after this general elections, based on the result, we may find that the ground is ready or wet enough for something new. A new sort of energy, new faces,
Well,
so maybe they have worked that out, and so the entrance now is a great time to enter, because all eyes are on politics.
Yeah.
So everybody watching everybody to enter in.
Well,
so if she enter last year or after the election, who's that? They're probably saying who's that now, but there are people who's probably saying, let me listen. I mean, I voted for MBPM before, Yes, because I went I didn't know what was going on. I didn't hear nothing I liked. So I walked into the booth on one in the morning, and I just did by a process of elimination. And because I'm like a sentimental feeling to the little PRG thing, I voted for MBPM. You see? I know the candidate didn't have a chance. And you see, you get those. You wouldn't get a lot of those, but you get those because I think at the core, a lot of people want to exercise their franchise.
Because you have these fringe parties like ours, and I call it fringe party, no insult intended, but you have also GULP with
the candidates.
Mr. Prudhomme, and you're not hearing about the candidate, but you hear they have articulated they want to be in the race and to be considered as parties on the side. So you're hearing these things. And the issue, of course, not the issue, but you want to know if these parties at all will have any sort of impact on what is going to come forward in terms of swaying people one way or swaying people away from the two main parties. I mean, I think almost at this stage, and I could be wrong, I think most of the core supporters of the parties are well set where they want.
Yes.
And the people on the fence who are probably still on the fence are not far from deciding, because the two main parties have already articulated the things that they want to look at. In essence, one party have talked a lot about the ideas. I still think that there's a lot of form and not much substance, because you're not hearing some of the things come forward. And I want us to discuss this thing because I see this came up a lot in the last weekend about the payment fortnightly. Because Mr. Mitchell, Deacon Mitchell, articulated that his party is certainly going to look into trying to get public servants to be paid fortnightly. It came up as something Prime Minister Mitchell would have announced probably an election or two cycles ago. And
in 1995.
Yes.
Yeah, and he didn't say I would do it, eh?
No, he did say he was going to look into it.
Yeah.
But obviously
when
he explained himself Sunday government, he said he did. And he explained the reasons why it wasn't feasible. But what troubled me on the NDC's part of it, listening to them, is that Mr. Mitchell seems to want to use legislation to mandate it to a certain degree, which he said they're willing to look into as well to see if it's possible. And that troubles me to some degree, because when you look at small and micro business, cash flow is king for them, and having cash flow. to mandate something like that, even though they say they will have a lot of discussions, I think is going to be sending a signal that, you know, people will get worried about. Because you mandate me to pay every fortnight and I don't have the cash flow, it means I have to go to banks, negotiate overdrafts, and so on and so forth, and, you know, it's a cost. And the intention of this, of course, is to create economic activity. I know that is what is said, because people will spend more, they have more money to spend in a shorter cycle. But the complications of putting that in banks, financial institutions which support that, even government employees, the government work through significant overdraft facilities.
Help us out with that a bit, Senator Diali, because I think you're in a unique position to do so as a CEO of a major company and then a private sector person, and also an economist. Give us some of the pros and cons of this situation, of this twice per month, as it relates to the Grenada scenario.
The pro, obviously, is that the more money you have in people's hands, and the assumption is the more they have money, is the more they will spend and do things. So it will, in turn, generate economic activity across the entire spectrum. And as a result, government will tend to, through taxes and other things, will get a better feel for income, and GDP hopefully will improve, and so on. So that's a big spin-off, because normally when you put monies in people's hands, some of us save, but most economists will tell you that, especially on the low economic rung, people spend and create activity.
Right, so we see that happen with construction workers, hotel workers, bank employees, to some extent. Right?
So that is a major pro, of course, and people having more monies to do more things. But the difficulty with it, let's take, for example, VAT. I think Prime Minister mentioned that VAT is paid on the 20th, or have to be paid on the 20th of the month. That's past the 15th. So already, that first fortnight, for government to have revenues to pay workers is going to be significantly impacted, because VAT is a big component of the monthly intake in revenues, apart from cross-border taxes, duties, and so on, which generally tend to happen evenly across the month, probably a little more towards the ending of the month, because of how shipments come in and people buy at the end of the month cycle. So it really is a cash flow constraint. And then you add the complexities of the banks, the financial institutions that support government's payroll through the overdraft facilities, and then workers having the issue of those who have loans and other credit situations with the banks that is linked to taking out the payments at a particular time. Most times it's in a month. So workers now have to rethink how they spend their money. It's not more money in your hand. Eh? Let's get that clear. It's not more money in your hand. It's the same amount of money, but just being sent to you at a different time.
I'm happy you said that, because in some of the social media discussions, I don't know if it's true or if it's a joke, because so many things are happening on social media. Some of them are really funny, but some of them caustic. Yeah, I saw a person arguing that they heard a couple of people thinking that they would be paid. So let's say I work for $2,000 a month. They think a couple of people came away thinking that they would be paid $2,000 twice a month. Yeah. And they said, no. It's half. You get 1,000 on the 15th, and you get the next 1,000. And by the way, your NIS and everything else have to,
come out in the second half, including your loan payment. So if you
I don't know if this was a joke. Because clearly the pitch was from your monthly salary. You'll be paid twice, and anybody should think that would be divided by 2. But you just have to be in communication. You have to understand that I understand you and we understand.
Yes, we do that in my company. We pay fortnightly, but the issue here is at a company you have to be able to afford, and the cash flow have to be able to afford it. And if you cannot, you can't mandate it, in my view. And that's a difficult thing, because you can't tell a company, if your cash flow is X, you need to get it to Y through law. It doesn't happen that way. So it's a difficult conversation from that point of view, and it's a worrying conversation to hear that is what is articulated on one side as a policy thing.
Right.
So
as a policy and wanting to do this, Nothing is fundamentally wrong with the exploration of it.
Correct.
But if you are saying you're going to mandate it, therefore, once you're in government and you say things like mandate, legislation is used to mandate. And so I think that will kind of have people like, oh. But so, I mean, but nothing is wrong. Explore it.
No,
see where it leads.
I think,
you know?
PM Mitchell said on his platform it was explored, and he did use the example of VAT, and he did use other examples, but obviously they looked at it and they found that it was very complex, so they shelved it. I mean, the other side, if they want to explore, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
One of the
As I said, the worrying thing for me was the law and using the law to mandate it. If you know,
because to me, I don't think that they can 100% say now that they really have a clear understanding of the inner workings of everything to decide that I shall mandate. What you want to do is to get more factors that would impact it, so you need to go one way or the other. And then you can always come back and say, hey, listen, I wanted to do this, but this is what's happening, this is where we are, this is, you know, let's work on this, let's do that. Politicians are not, no, they don't normally say that, because they're salesmen and women, right? So all you get are the features and the advantages. You don't get the other side. So, you know, we as the people receiving the information, we have to be very logical in our thinking. And you know,
this is what I just want to put that other argument on the table so people understand. As you say, it's not being paid $2,000 every 2 weeks. It's your 1,000 split in half, you know, and we need to be careful and understand and kind of take that out of the equation immediately. I want to also touch on this other issue that I heard in the last week or two on another program, which kind of troubled me. I heard so
many things on programs that are troubling. Anyway,
but this was on a network, one of our major networks in the country, and this was on CBI. And this Bangladeshi guy that was caught, or is being alleged, is being investigated for bank fraud.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, and he currently holds a Grenada passport through CBI and other passports from other countries. But you know, the comment that one of the persons made on the program was that
one of the hosts?
Yeah, one of the hosts is that Grenada CBI program seemed to attract a lot of crooks. And you know, I thought,
on air?
Yeah, and I thought that was so unfortunate, because you know, here is your program being aired internationally, regionally, and you're giving the country this thing that CBI is not a program that is, you know, security, and the comments were even say that, you know, we boast about having a good security screening for potential applicants on the CBI, and look, this guy, you know. The only thing that bothered me about that, apart from what went out there, is that nobody seemed to indicate that I can screen you now, Brenda. You meet all the security checks. I award you a passport under the CBI program. And then 2 months from now, 6 months from now, you engage in some illegal activity that I have no control over. And your screening can't bring that up. And we need to understand that programs like that will have that. The fallback CBI has is that if this thing is proven to be what it is, that he's been alleged and it is fraud, we can rescind the passport, and those avenues are open to us. So we need to be balancing these views.
And you see, that is what the host of the program should be aware of. And these things are not hard to find. CBI have an active website with a lot of information. Maybe it's too much reading. Maybe it's too much work.
But when you make those generalized comments, you know, you have to think
wonder
about
what people's agendas and intentions are, other than showing up yourself as ignorant and not doing your work the right way.
Because CBI brings in a lot of money to this country. It helps with a lot of social programs through the NTF fund. And you know, as a program we need to encourage. It's been threatened now to internationally, but we have to push back and fight, because it's a big program for countries like us and Dominica and St. Kitts and all of us who have had the benefits of these programs working for us. So I mean, it's something that we need to be careful what we see. And,
you see, if it was I would have addressed it from that point of view, that the Bangladeshi thing with him being arrested and the fraud and so, that is news. Let's not get away from that.
Correct.
That is something to be put in the public sphere. We need to be aware. After all, he's holding a Grenadian passport. What I would have done, though, is examine what is in play at CBI, right? That, we could, how we respond to it, or, what happens. Understand, demystify, if you will. And that's another thing. CBI needs a lot of demystifying. I even hear people on political platforms saying things about the CBI program that are not true.
Yeah, what?
That are not true. And it's not a secret, You can, you just go, we seem to, I don't know, people say this all the time, and it's a statement that I hate, that if you want to hide something from a Grenadian, put it in a book. I don't like that. That says something bad about us. We need to take our time, read, and read again. And we hear it once,
our CBI
pause.
program has done well in the last 10, 15 years.
But do we understand how our CBI program
the
works?
The development we have in St. David's, and the hotel being built, the Intercontinental and the other, and Six Senses and all of those are CBI programs. And yes, you will have stumbling blocks along the way, as in everything else, and you have to manage it and so on. And I mean, when I was part of CBI, I know the challenges that you face. Of course,
you speak from a position of knowledge.
It's something that as Grenadians, we need to take and welcome it and see how best we could build it and work out the little kinks. Because at the end of the day, it creates opportunities for employment. We talk about getting rid of unemployment. How else could we do it? Through investments. It has to be through investment in, as we say, productive investments that could keep on making money for us and providing
for the NTF right now, and a lot of instances, crapo smoke we pipe.
Yeah.
But we need to understand, we can't be accusing our CBI people who work very hard, or law enforcement who works very hard,
exactly,
and all the other agencies outside of Grenada that we are linked to that help us in investigating people who apply for our citizenship. Mm-hmm. Because you must do the due diligence. When you hear them speak, you hear people say DD, that it means due diligence. You must do your checks. It takes some time.
Of course.
The world is so small. One of the positives from the fallout of 9/11 was how close all law enforcement agencies and these other agencies became. Mm-hmm. So you can't go and hide no way. You go hide for a day. Yeah, maybe a week, and you shall be found.
Let me just tell you, in Grenada CBI program, we are extremely cautious. It's not only the program, the financial institutions involved also have their own checks to check on the monies coming in, where they're coming, sourcing and all of that, and they have to follow the AMTL guidelines. So we have a lot of layers, but again, we don't take time.
All we have pushed, and that's a negative that has taken form from years of not understanding the program, because we didn't do a good job as a country, and probably we need to do more to demystify the program, so all people know. And a lot of politicians and they keep saying it, selling passports. No, that's just a small little part of it.
It's just a little part of it.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yeah, moving right along. Mr. Campbell, we miss you. How is it in Mount Morris? Well, Mount Morris had a launch last week.
Yeah.
Big thing
in Mount Morris. The Prime Minister was, I thought at times was emotional with his, complimenting and thanking all the people who assisted him in his many years in that constituency, and he highlighted some folks. I think Ms. Dowden was one of them that he highlighted, and took a lot of scholar and listened to her on many occasions.
That right there. Getting emotional. You men are something else, eh?
Yeah.
And that ego. Here it is. It was still after it was finished that I figured it out. I was like, wow, that was brilliant. The fact that he went back to the place where he started. Because you remember, he said this is his last, this is his one for the road. And, Mr. Campbell did share with us that when he ran, was it in 1976 or 1972? When he ran for the very first time, he lost. Yeah. But Mount Morris was the one polling division that he won, and he's never lost it. So I thought it was really sentimental, that it was really brilliant that he went back to the place where he started. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of symbolism and grandeur and so in that. And then the event, it was well put on. All the speakers, there was a young lady there. Oh my God, she was just... Dr. Forrester, it was great. And then Mr. Harris and all these people, because Mama is a really strong community, and all these people who work so hard there and so on. And then the Prime Minister came. Of course, his mother was there and everything. And he was, he started very well. He went back, he started to wax really sentimental. And he was getting, and I looked at him and I felt he was getting emotional. It was just at that point. He probably said to himself, no, I ain't gonna cry here. And he switched. So he got a part in his presentation where he was basically responding to attacks of, his stewardship. And he said, when we do what and what and what, where he today? And when he saw how the crowd responded and they picked it up for 6 minutes at a time. Cry for Toby. Where he did it. He just, but it was at the point where he started to get emotional. And he probably says, I'm not staying here and cry. Let me put on a bacchanal.
That's a new coin, where he did it, that's on one side. And then the other side, is susu in your, susu, So yeah, it's nice pecan. I think it's good fun.
All fun.
And I like the pecan aspect of the campaigning so far, and I hope it never gets to the gutter politics that we used to hear sometimes in the past.
Yeah,
and it's all fun. I compliment the leaders for keeping it above board.
Because what they are picking up on is things that are said about each other on the campaign, and they just turn it into fodder, which is light. It's not, and it's good for the supporters. Because let me tell you something too, even if the Prime Minister made a little mischief in Montmartre, what the Prime Minister does very well, and I've noticed over the years, he reads the room. He reads the room. If the Prime Minister probably shows up at times with a prepared speech or with something he plans to, but once he comes in and he assesses who's there, that immediately changes. And as a speaker, as a presenter, you always have to be aware. And in Montmartre, it was going real. It was too elegant. And then the people just there. To him, they probably say, "Hey, my people, they look bored." let me. Then he whipped them into a frenzy. Because let me tell you, that is important to do.
Yeah, well, but
that is important to do in those situations,
Part of politics and being on platforms and podiums and so on is theater.
Yes.
You have to
be careful with the theater too.
I never forgot, one time I had the benefit to meet Prime Minister from Trinidad, Indian Prime Minister. Pandey. And Pandey has his degree in pediatrics.
Yes, he does.
And when you meet him one-on-one,
you have a moat on him too.
Yeah, he's a completely different gentleman than when you meet him on the platform or you see him on the platform.
Yeah.
And he was the one that said to me, Chris, politics is about theater. And you have to understand that.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to, generate that vibes in your crowd.
Optics are very important.
And get them to, to get on board with you and so on. So you need to understand that as well.
Yeah, man. People you can't bring, and let me tell you, it's different sorts of people there. So you and I who looking on in this way, looking to see what he's saying about his legacy and so on, and then the other people who listening about his stewardship and policy and whatever, and then there's his base. All they want is action. So his job is to take care of everybody. That's the thing about these presentations and so on. Everybody have different styles. The Prime Minister is a very, lively and a person. And somebody else, say Dickon Mitchell is more laid back and more, but they, in their own way, they can do it.
I want to touch on the issue of Gren Lake, a more positive issue. Because I know we had a...
what positive is happening at Gren Lake? The electricity bills went down?
No, not yet. But they had an industrial issue that could have blown out of context. And the government, through its negotiating team, of course, because it's now government-owned so far,
that's what we're forgetting. Even that is what we're forgetting. Because during the strike, I just want to pause to say that. I know it might be difficult because we've had private ownership of the company for so long, but we seem to forget that the employer is the government and the owner is the government. I just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, well, it will appear from the articles I read this weekend that obviously the issue has been resolved, and of course the workers seem to be happy with the issues that were put on the table and got settled. So that was a positive thing from the Grenada issue that I wanted to touch quickly on. But it brings us into the wider discussion on, because on this political cycle, you're hearing a lot about workers and who has the best interests of workers. You know, NEC says one, NNP says one, and who has the best interests concerning workers. On May Day, you know, comments made by the TUC president wasn't very complimentary to one side. And Mr. Mitchell, Deacon Mitchell, came back and spoke about his track record and with workers and defending the rights of workers. And then you hear this issue about contract work. And the NDC platform continues to articulate through Mr. Mitchell that, you know, there is this issue about, you know, all contract work will tend to be illegal based on what he had said on previous times, and that he will make all Imani workers, 3,000 of them, on the established staff of the government, and this thing of having them on contract is not the right thing to do, and all the other issues surrounding people on contract. I just think that, you know, we need to bring some realism into the discussion. And when you say that contract work is illegal, and you haven't said in particular that you're referring probably to things with the Union of Teachers in the government service and those who have been on contracts for pretty long periods of time, and you know, you need to deal with that issue, versus saying it is something that you don't particularly like and it is, you could legally challenge it. We need to be careful, because a lot of private sector companies that have people on contract and work with contracts, and it's not an illegal thing. You know, a contract is a pretty legal document once it's, you have two parties and there's often acceptance in a contract. So I just think there's need to demystify this thing.
We have to be careful, because my head office is in another country, in another space, and I didn't even realize they were actively following. We were asked about that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing.
That's the fluidity of how we operate in our organization, is via contract for a lot of the work we do. And so, you know, we were asked about that. So you're right, there need to be specific, yeah. You know, which target, what am I going to do, how am I going to approach this, if I'm going to look at this particular group, that particular group, this particular group. We need a clearer understanding instead of the carte blanche.
Yeah, and I mean, it may sound sexy to say take 3,000 Imani peoples off from contract and make them permanent. But the issue is where we getting the monies to pay. How is it, when you blow the public service up to that extent, how do you manage everything else? You may say you don't need to have the IMF tell you what to do and the World Bank, but these are people who influence how you get credit and how you get monies into your country to do your same social programs that you need to protect.
You probably would, if they were to win the next general elections, you would, when you get in there, you would find that your interactions with the IMF may be not what you like, but what you have to do. Exactly.
It's one of those things that I think we just need to demystify a little and talk about it, because, you know, it's nice to say these things, but at the end of the day, how realistic is it to say these things? And you wonder sometimes if these things will really convince people. I don't know, but this is, I'm not a politician, so probably when you go on the platform and you say these things, people will buy into them. I don't know, but I just think we need to just put a dose of reality and challenge some of those things and see how at all they can actually work, you know, and we must, I think we have a responsibility to say that, you know, challenge these things when they say it and see exactly what is happening. There's another thing I saw coming out this week on the papers that troubled me a little, and this was Ferdinand Phillip was highlighted from the Parliamentary Elections Office for a comment he said,
Phillip,
where he said that, you know, he believes that our system that we have now for voting and registration and all of that is probably well protected, and you know, there can't be fraud as we know in the past. And he was hammered in the press for that statement.
Why? Because somebody feel away?
No, well, you know, the press cited examples of things in the past where they have probably had infringement, people voting in one constituency and going to another one and so forth and so on.
So they were not convinced by the statement?
I was not convinced by the statement, but I think where I have had interaction with Mr. Phillip, where Mr. Phillip is coming from is that the system have significantly changed over the years. And the digitizing of the system and the security backgrounds that you put to ensure that certain weaknesses that may have been in the past, and you may have had situations with double registration, whatever it is, that you may have had dead people that saying voting and all of that kind of stuff. It is now at a state where the PEO could say with a certain amount of confidence that, listen, our system has been rigorous, have been tried and tested, and there is very little room. Nothing is impossible in the world with hacking, as we see in the world now, with election systems in the US and so on. So there's nothing infallible. But at the same time, the risks are greatly reduced based on what we have. And we still have manual voting. It's not electronic. But what he's saying is that the administrative work in the background to protect these things are more rigorous than they were 20 years ago. So when I saw the crucifying in the papers that they should get rid of Mr. Ferdinand Phillip, from the PEO, you have to wonder sometimes, if it's just emotions.
We feel strongly about a lot of things.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things about PEO, parliamentary election, they're trying to bring up again to say that this is not a well-run organization.
It's not the boogeyman.
Yeah, it's not the boogeyman, and you're putting a lot of things at their feet. And
par for the course.
In my short time around in elections, every independent observer mission that comes, have never said and have never gone to the point and say Grenada elections have been a total failure. They will always highlight issues for improvement. PEO over the years have done some of them. Some of them are deeper issues that have to be dealt with, but at least
they have great staff. They have highly skilled individuals working at the PEO. I was rather impressed, being in the media, and we had to do election coverage in 2018. That because they brought us together for training on how to navigate the system, how we should, to get the election results and all of that kind of thing. I was really, really, really impressed by the machinery they have in there and this sort of IT staff that they have there.
That's
brilliant,
right. And
brilliant,
brilliant. We tend to always try to pull down these institutions that we have had. But what we don't see is that these institutions many years ago at this point, and look at how they have improved up to this point. And they have ensured that we have an election process that is sometimes seamless in terms of how they operate. The people at the constituency levels, they get everybody, they bring them in, they do their oaths, they do their training, and they get things ready, they have the ballot. There's a lot of background work. And we never seem to be complimentary at any time. And that really does bother me.
It's education too, because I listen as politicians and people who I think should know better. Because remember, we're no longer doing civics in school. So when we go there to speak about our system, I think we need to do it the right way. So at this point, the elections have been called and the writ has been issued. So there are no more registration officers. They are now returning officers. You see? So stop telling, the registration officer this and that. No. As of midnight, I think some of them stay open till 3 o'clock in the morning to accommodate people. So from the time the last person registered and the writ was returned by Her Excellency Dame Cecile Lagrenade, these people ceased to be registration officers and they became returning officers. And so we need to, some of us need to acquaint ourselves with
this is something that has been around for eons. Now, when the election calls, your registration process has to stop. And remember, Brenda, when one cycle finishes and the next time period starts for the next 5 years, you have 4 to 5 years to register yourself.
Grenada is one of the places in the world that can boast of continuous registration. So for the last 5 years, we could have been registering,
Correct. So, I mean, we have to bear responsibility as individuals.
You know what it is, though?
And not put everything on somebody else.
You know what it is? At the crux of it, we are real kind of last-minute people.
Of course.
I watched a license and registration about 2 weeks ago. And people all down in
when the 15th approaches, everybody coming on the 14th or on the 15th.
We last minute. We really
last minute behavior is your responsibility. You have to take responsibility for that. You can't come and criticize and say the Prime Minister quality, you only give people 1 day to register. And
you saw people who know better, saying things like that. It was not 1 day to register.
Exactly.
Right? You may not have liked the fact that the announcement came and then bam! But it was not it is false to say it was 1 day for registration. That is false.
Yeah. So, it's just, and I mean, again, here we put the PO under a microscope and think that,
PO is a new boogeyman, is elections.
And we don't tend to say, well, listen, my guys, you have a responsibility to do this. So
what we should be more concerned about is that they are ready to deliver a fair and free election process to us. We want to examine the list, make sure they're all right. I think at this point, nomination day is on the 1st, but even before then, I think candidates and so on to caucus.
I think there's a 7-day period when you need to examine the list.
They want to go through their list, go canvass their list,
I think,
look for their people, and see what's happening.
Robert Ferguson have been doing programs talking about the laws relating to PO and election and voting.
We need 50 more ruggles in Grenada.
And he has been very, very simple language. Yeah, talking about the timelines and when the list is finally printed. You have 7 days to object, so go through the list.
The more you know about your system of governance,
so, I mean,
that nobody could tie you up.
When the information is out there, you have to pay attention because at the end of the day, you bear certain responsibilities as well as an individual. So,
absolutely.
So we need to say that, and people are saying that if you don't have an ID card, you can't vote. I mean, Mr.
That was never the case.
And his team, Mr. Moraine, have said quite clearly that once you are registered in the last elections, you're free to vote once your name on the list. But you still need to check.
It's not biometric registration. Correct. Yes, when the Prime Minister said the date up in thing, I pull and I start.
Yeah, and those of us who electronically savvy could go on the site, I think it's pogrenada.org and check your status and see where you
And I'm waiting for the list to make sure that I'm there.
So we need to pay attention.
We really need to mind we business.
Not get emotional and say things happening in that kind of way. So
we need to mind our business.
Do believe so.
But have been your general, as you observe the political rallies and so on, what has been your general assessment of let's look at things like organization and delivery and that kind of thing.
I am pretty much pleased. I think both sides are doing an excellent job in how they present themselves and how they articulate their issues. Both the leaders are doing well. The candidates that come and speak well for some of the caretakers that have been put forward and promoted. So I think generally you're seeing, in my view, a campaign that have started. In essence, the momentum is increasing and building, but it's going pretty good. I mean, the one detraction I've always said and articulated, I would like to see a debate between the leaders or whoever.
That's not going to happen. Let's move on.
I suspect. But so the debate is going to happen on these platforms, and I think you and I have to know, take certain things, filter it out, and throw ideas out. So the debate is happening among us. But outside of that, I think the quality is well. The delivery in terms of the electronics and the various medias and so on, everybody have access to see. So it's a good delivery platform. I'm still concerned with the COVID numbers that we have and the increasing in the COVID numbers and having so much face-to-face gatherings.
You was in the coal pen climbing on people's back. Why worry about the election rally?
You'll never see me in the coal pen.
Let's move on. I have a picture with you.
But that is something that we need to still pay attention to because, after every general election that has happened in our region, there's a big surge in COVID infections and our vaccinations are still woefully low. So it is something that I do worry about, particularly from the point of view that us in the private sector and in the public sector is going to affect productivity.
Yes.
Because the more it takes out our staff, more it takes out our staff, and you have to isolate for 5 to 7 days and sometimes more.
10.
Yeah, 10, a maximum of 10. It takes out a lot of staff, and then efficiencies drop, and then people can't get the service they want, and they quarrel and so on. But it is again a reflection of what we don't do. And pay attention to the protocols. The government and Ministry of Health continue to say, be careful, pay attention, mask, sanitize, and whatever you can do. But we get emotional in election times, and we hug up and we dancing, and you hear all of that. And good, some people enjoy that, and that's part of the process. But at the end of the day, we need to pay attention. So Brenda, to answer your question in short, I think the campaigns are doing well. And I compliment both sides for what they're doing, and I just encourage them to keep it going.
How do you measure? Because there seem to be a school of thought that the campaign has started, and there's another school of thought that we're on the home stretch.
Well,
what does that say about the understanding of electioneering?
I think from now to the 23rd, you're going to see quite a huge build-up on both sides. NNP obviously have a big meeting coming up Sunday in St. David's. They have one in Carriacou, I think Saturday with Ms.
They have a lot of village
Kendra.
meetings this
Yes.
week too.
So there's a lot of that going on in the background. And on the weekends they escalated to these big events. So you're seeing a lot of that momentum building up, and that is proper, in that you want to rally your supporters, get them excited, get everybody ready to go and vote.
Right.
As you say, put up the finger, which finger, and so on. So it's a lot of that, and you will continue to see that leading up to the 20th. And I expect it's going to build to a point where it's going to crescendo, and everybody, hyped up on both sides to get their thing done and do that. So I'm looking forward to the build-up. I don't go to these things, but I look at it on the various medias platform and assess and listen to what they say and so on.
Yeah, man.
So it's
you have to watch and listen to everybody.
Yeah. And I am pleased with what I'm seeing so far.
I asked a question to really put it out there that elections is not this month. What the campaign is not this month. The campaigns has had different levels.
Oh yeah, different phases.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question, how do you feel the school of thought that we already know? We just, we ready. And then, because before this, all the work that has to be done before we get to this point, was it done? Did you do it? How do you feel about it?
Prime Minister is traditionally being a gentleman, and he's a statistician. So he's somebody who believes in figures and understands, how that it will impact his elections and so forth. I am quite certain, and you hear a lot about the green machinery and what they do in the background. I am quite certain, and he did say on one of the platforms that he was encouraging all the constituency people to bring in their reports so they could analyze and see what is happening. I don't think he will call the trigger until he believes his party is in a position where he believes the necessary background work have been done, and they're in a position where they feel a certain level of confidence to call it no and get their people to register. So I think from that point of view, that party has a machinery and an understanding of what figures can do and see how that could influence what they do in the cycle coming up. Of course, elections are something that you never know what can happen on the day, because it's a personal choice when you go in a booth what you do. And they could have swings depending on what's happening.
Yeah, well, any major events, it could be won or lost in a day. Eh?
That's right. So, there's no guarantee. Yeah. But you do the background work and you could hope. And when you listen to pollsters like Mr. Wickham, based on his most recent...
why are we beating him up so? Morning, Peter.
He says, and Peter has a track record of getting these things right. Of course. 9 out of 10 times.
Yep.
And and again, it's because he does a lot of the background work, understand what the figures are saying, and he says it as it is. I think when you listen to Peter on various different platforms, talk about elections in different countries. So when you put all of that together, you believe that the NNP side have done their work and understand where they are. I don't know if the NDC side have done that or in the process of doing that, and how that will impact their people coming out to vote and do what they have to do. So, it is one of those things, and of course the incumbent have history and, stability with their system and so on. NDC have been one that has not had that kind of, consistency with their system and the background work, and there may be a weakness that they have.
Electioneering is a science.
It is.
Yeah, it is a science. It is a science.
From that point of view, I think probably you may want to give the nod that NNP probably is a little more prepared and you see with the background work that is and what is happening. But when you drive around, I drove around on Sunday, you've seen a lot of posters up from both sides. A lot of banners and signs. A lot of that is going up now. So they're visible, highly visible, and you're seeing them talk about their candidates and caretakers, and that's a good thing from both sides. And once
and
we
I'm
keep
happy
it
that
civil,
they came out of the town hall, because you can do the town halls. And I was looking at Jenny Rapier on the narrative, and everybody's beating up Jenny. But if you just take away your feelings for a while, Jenny is correct about a lot of these things. Another thing about Jenny have capital of walking on the ground, because in the NDC, that's what she did. She was on the ground. She and her sister and Wade Phillip, who is Nimrod Oliver's brother, and all these people, they worked very hard for Mr. Burke in the Northeast, And when she resigned from the NDC and went to the TGM, that's what she did. So she not, I guess, you know, people could probably figure because she's no longer with the NDC or whatever, but that may be so. But she listened to what she's saying. Your critic is not always a hater. There is something you can take away from what they're saying and put it into your own scenario and say, yeah, maybe we need to do this. You know, that kind of thing. If we could just detach our emotions for a bit, you know.
She's a foot soldier of the best.
Yeah. No. She has meat because she know what she's saying. She has been in the front lines of it. She's been on the ground. She's been there for NDC, for the TGM. I mean, a lot of the TGM membership is because of her work, her hard work in rural communities and so on as well. Yeah. You know, she knows what she's saying. You know, you could disagree, and that's fine, or you may say, well, I'm doing this in my party, that's great too. But to vilify the individual because she's saying something and, oh, it's sour grapes and blah, 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 you know. Well, but I'm happy. I saw her say that, and I agree that the town hall have their place, don't get me wrong, and they can still, and I'm not giving the NDC any advice, you know, right? But I'm just saying that, you know, they could mix it, you know, if they wish. But you have to do the rallies. And so we got into a state where we were trying to criticize the New National Party for rallies and saying, you know, well, we run and we campaign. And no, I guess you're now finding out that you need to whip up momentum in your base. Yeah. You need your rallies. You need to go outside. You need to meet and move your people. You need to show the undecided, man, they're looking good, man. You need to do that. It's a psychological thing.
It is.
So when you do, I think sometimes people are too quick just to criticize and not understand what it is they're really criticizing, you know? So I just wanted to make that point. Yeah, how the rally's going, good man. You know, I like the action. Yeah, momentum. I think as a person that's kind of into events and so on, let's not
forget the little side thing with rallies, the people who sell on the side and the vendors who get, from both sides, who get a little money, opportunity to make some money on the side when the crowds come and so on, and the busmen and so on, everybody makes a little something on the side.
Registration day, the snow cone man make real money. The last day, the snow cone man,
they were in the line for so long and
he said, he said, I don't know, you know, I'm going back and full up. You must get your snow cone today, or I can come by tomorrow.
And that's a positive side to the thing, you know, so all kudos. I mean, that is part of it that you need to talk about. I just think it is one of those times, yes, it's short, it's going to be quick, but at the same time, you know, there are some positive sides to it.
My sister was saying last night, I said, Francis, today is the 23rd, right? I say, a month from today, tonight, no, so we're hearing results.
Yeah, how much weekends we
have?
So
I said, I can't wait for these weeks to go.
We have 5 weekends left?
She said to me, yeah, but you know something, Brenda? This is going to be the longest 4 weeks of our lives. I say, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, because it's so much, a lot of heaviness, you know, that you just want it to go away, kinda.
We have 4 weekends left.
Yeah, 4 weekends left.
4 weekends left.
Jesus. You know, the tension, you just want some of it. But I must say, to the people providing the fun and the fodder and everything to make us laugh, yeah, thanks a lot. Depo is saying something here based on what we were talking about on Facebook. He said, I saw one individual asking how Peter David, as Minister of Labour, can facilitate an agreement with Grenlec when Parliament is suspended. Well, Parliament is dissolved, not suspended. Here we see the need to educate our children from elementary, primary level on government and more emphasis on civics, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah, but the Labour Minister may have come in as a conciliator in these discussions and suggested ways to solve the issues that were on the table. But remember, the contract is between the union and the company. So if the minister would have suggested to both sides and would have agreed on the way forward, it doesn't need to come to Parliament. So I think that is the little difference here.
But it's not illegal. The dissolution of Parliament dissolves the
but
representation
Peter is still
of
the Minister of Labour.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
They are all now ministers.
That's right.
So he still possesses ministerial power
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go into the situation.
And ministerial power
Yeah.
doesn't say that he signs on the contract. What it
Right.
says is that he suggests from his position of Minister of Labour,
Yes.
this is a possible solution for the two
They are,
sides to
they are
consider.
still ministers,
Yeah,
whether
and,
parliament dissolved or
the
not.
contract is
They're
between-
not parliamentary representatives anymore.
Yeah,
They're-
so
they're still
that's a subtle
ministers.
difference that he can do.
Yeah.
And,
That's what
and
civics
use his
help with.
office. Yeah, use
When-
his office to so impact
That's what
things like
civics
that.
is help with. When the parliament is prorogued, what happens? When the parliament dissolves, what
Yeah.
happens? What happens to the members? How long do we
Correct.
still have a leader of the
Prorogation
opposition?
has nothing to do
What
with
do we-
dissolution
No,
in
it
that
has.
sense.
Yeah, it has.
All of
so
us still
these are the
maintain our
things.
positions as parliamentarians on parole, on
Correct.
probation.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
yes.
And Mr. David is still a minister. They are now all, they act in their ministerial capacities.
Yeah, Prime Minister is still Prime Minister.
Of course, the cabinet can still meet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Country had to run still.
The country have to run. Yeah, the rallies have been going good. Sunday, there were two really big ones. The NDC came out in River Sally
yeah.
to launch Mr. Cornwall and Mr. Andel, and the NDC, the NNP, sorry, St. George South, to launch Mr. Cox. And the NDC, I took in a bit of it. I might be a little bit biased, but my favorite speaker was Tevin Andrew. Tevin is such a politician. I mean, it'd be interesting to see where he goes, how he goes. He was, always dynamic. He has such presence, fills up a stage, fills up a room, his voice, his energy, whip up the crowd. Tevin was really excellent. Morning, Tevin. And Jonathan Lacrette, he has a future in politics. Yeah, he has a future in politics.
I didn't see both of
He
them,
has a
but
future in
I know
politics.
Tevin from the past, and I know him to be
Tevin.
very good and articulate.
The thing for me on Sunday that I haven't really paid attention. Well, I looked at him in Carriacou. He was excellent again. I mean, Carriacou, when they went up with the cruise, the boat, and all of that, and I looked at him because you see growth, you see, and it's a natural. It's just some people just had a natural thing, and Tevin is one of those, and you see, and yeah, he was excellent. Yes, Mr. Lacrette does have a future in politics. Yeah, he shouldn't concentrate too much now on his opponent or what is likely to happen. Just focus on, I guess probably
the long
give himself some national appeal and moving forward.
And that's the thing about, you have to admire these young people that are taking the plunge.
I picked up one yesterday.
And to see how, because getting into politics in our context and our society is something that impacts you personally and your family.
Absolutely.
So it's big sacrifices, and it's a lot of hard work.
Major.
If you do get there or not. So it's
and
one
we're
of
not
those
an
things,
easy crew.
That's right. So
We're
it's one
not
of
an
those
easy
things you have
crew.
to admire. The bravery and the tenacity of the people who put themselves up, because they're
and
putting a lot at stake.
How you want to laugh and ask, who is Queen's Britain?
Yeah.
Who you? You in the background hiding. I think I don't want to be victimized. Lies. Be brave.
Everybody,
Step forth.
and you have to give them kudos for
Prince
that.
alone. Yeah,
And,
at least he stood up. You have to respect that.
Yeah.
At least
Without
he stood
a
up.
doubt, and
You have
that's
to
something
respect
that you must
I
give
didn't get to see.
Mr. Deepan Mitchell kudos for.
I didn't get to watch Tessa. I wanted to see her. I would go back and see what happened there.
Dr. Sensei I am one of those people in my interactions with her in the Senate. I think she'll do very well. She's very articulate, very bright young lady, and understands issues. And she seemed to have a passion for helping people and getting things done, particularly in her constituency and where she's from. So I think she's also going to be a very good option going forward, now and wherever she lands.
Yeah, it might be a difficult hill to climb now, because one of the things is time. And if you're coming in for the first time, you need time to
to get people to know you and who you're about, and so on.
And just to put it in context, is that the history of St. Andrew Northeast, NNP has a very strong base in St. Andrew Northeast. NNP has never lost an election in St. Andrew Northeast.
Okay.
And what it is based on informal information and a little scientific is that the current representative, the current person, the candidate there, that is Skeeter Lois Peters, she is mighty.
Yeah, I mean, two women.
She's
I think
mighty.
of excellent character.
Two young women.
Yeah, and you know, it's good to see that.
And we'll continue in the political. Hopefully, they both.
And
will
Grenada
continue
have
the political
a high
landscape.
degree of female entrance in politics,
And
which is
there
a
will
good thing.
I suspect.
Which is a good thing.
I suspect that after the general elections, we are going to see more strong, attractive. When I say attractive, I mean the physical
Character.
Yeah, some of them are all pretty and thing too. Yeah, but I think we're going to see more strong women enter the political fray.
And that's a good
I
thing.
think after the general elections, we're going to see that.
That's a good thing.
And we're probably going to see that in both parties.
And I know Prime Minister encourages it, and apparently Deacon Mitchell is
Well, he
encouraging
needs
it as
credit.
well.
The Prime Minister deserves credit for,
Yeah.
first of all, bringing in young people and giving women a lot of
Yeah,
leverage
because I know
in the party.
Internationally, our parliament is, I think, the last statistic was 40-something
Yeah,
percent
one of the
male,
highest.
female, and one of the highest. And so
Yeah.
it's a good, positive thing. And when you saw, you know, Prime Minister Mia Mottley made one of the magazine for one of the most influential
Yes,
persons,
that was-
100. And she made a Time magazine
Yeah,
cover.
that
I
made
mean,
me
it
really
speaks,
happy
it speaks
yesterday.
so much about us in the
It
Caribbean.
is so inspirational, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you might say, okay, she's from the Barbadian, but it's a Caribbean
It
woman.
is, it is,
It
it
is of
is.
our ilk.
We
It's
all
also
proud.
Grenadian
We all
lineage.
proud as Caribbean people
What
to
a
see her make
swear.
that list.
I mean, it just shows you how far we can go.
Yeah, and Prime
you
Minister
know?
Mottley, I mean,
But you
know,
have to put in the work.
yeah,
You
yeah.
have to put in the work.
And she
it's
has been
not a
so
microwave
impressive.
process.
You know, the last comment I see her make, she says it's not about climate change, no, it's about climate crisis.
It is a
Especially
crisis.
for us in these small
She's
island
so big
developing
on-
states.
yeah.
And you know, when you hear her articulate very openly and very bluntly about we meet, but we don't seem to be putting things in place to deal with this temperature rise, and these bigger countries just don't
We
care
don't
about
take
these
it
ones.
seriously.
Yeah, because it's not impacting them as us. And when you hear a leader come out and say that, you know, regionally and internationally, you have to admire that, challenging the system.
Yeah.
And
She's
you're really-
fearless, she's brilliant,
Yeah,
she
and,
works hard.
You know, I think everybody respects
Yeah,
Prime
yeah.
Minister Mottley, and you have to give her the kudos
Yeah.
as a Caribbean woman and as a Barbadian woman, and what she has been able to accomplish. And it just shows where our women can get to. And I think she provides, you know, that gas ceiling have been shattered so long, you know, politically and other
Long
women
time.
and so on. And,
Long
you know,
time.
we just have to give
Long time.
big up our ladies.
Yeah,
you
and
know.
support each
You guys
other.
are right
you know,
with
we too have to kind of tone down the posturing of we are all and we can do without our men and so on. We have to, you know, we need our men. We have to do it together.
Of course.
And then we had Mr. Cox in the South. That was massive. That was massive.
And he also, his speech was well delivered as well.
It was good.
For a relatively young, new entrant into the field. Yes, he has been in the Senate and a minister, but as a political figure. And, you know, he articulated well and gave a good account of himself and what he plans to do and so on. So I thought that was well done as well.
Yeah, it was nuanced. I felt that there was a mixture of this is who I am, these are my convictions, this is what I believe in, but I also believe in you, and this is what I want to do. I kind of like that. That was brilliant.
Yeah, and you know, my interaction with Senator Cox when we were in the Senate and so on is a gentleman that lives up to his promises or whatever. He's a doer.
Yeah.
And you see where the Prime Minister has him in the ministry that is trying to get projects to happen, and he has been successful.
Yeah.
So when you look at that track record, if he continues in that way, you know, he has a bright future in the politics, I think.
Yeah. And we saw 3 former MPs, well, Glynis Roberts, Alexandra Otway Noel, and Nicholas Steele there on the platform. That was brilliant. I'll be biased, that's been the best launch so far.
Senator Cox and the team.
I mean, all the launches have been really good, don't get me wrong, but Montrouge, I just like how it flowed. And I miss Mr. Bola, you know. Oh, I love Mr. Bola.
Yeah.
But Auntie Sharma was there, and she did well. I like how they keep they flow. It is obviously produced and it just goes, you know, like when the speaker, you just see Mr. Bola appear behind the speaker right shoulder. You're 3 minutes up. That's what I mean.
Time to move on.
Get moving. Yeah. You know.
And you have to manage that. I mean, you have other people there. You have to get them back home. It's a Sunday, work next day.
Not only that.
You have to manage it.
It is an event.
Yeah.
People are viewing.
Yeah,
you have brought people to the venue. You can call them supporters, but in an event sense, they are patrons. And so the experience that is happening is important.
I don't want people
and
to
so
get bored,
you bring people, correct. So you
and they're standing up for that 2-3 hours.
Yes, these people, thousands of people just standing there, and you decide you're going to be professor. No, that is why you had to throw in the little pickup. You had to bring in short leg and whoever, Randall did a good job by an NDC too. Randall had to call you your mouth. Yeah, but yes, you have to bring in the high energy and people to keep the thing, and so it is really exciting, and I just trust that we keep it that way. Let us all go out on the 23rd, perform our civic duty. Let's be respectful. And there is a young man on social media I would like to give a lot of kudos this morning. On social media, he goes by the name of Royalty James. And he goes live, and he's a comedian. I mean, it's just a gift. He ain't even trying, because every other thing out of his mouth is a joke. And then if you decide you want to insult him or whatever, he just pick up on the last word you say, and he turn it into a joke. And it is just brilliant. People go to school to learn that. He didn't go to any school. He's blessed with that. What he does, I believe, through his lives is really, he makes us laugh, because the tension is so high. He is obviously, based on his utterances on the lives, he's obviously an NNP supporter. He's from St. Mark, so he big up Dr. Modest all the time. And then he have a lot of NDC friends. So they come under the live and, they're giving, the pick on back and forth. But it is fun. Big up yourself, Prince. Good morning. And, for the laughter, because we need it. I think for the most part, some of us are getting too caustic with the whole thing. And we have to remember, we have to live, work, eat, worship, fall in love with, build the country together with one another after the 23rd.
Of course. Yeah?
It doesn't matter whether the NNP is retained or whether the NDC emerges. They shall be our government, our prime minister, our whoever. All right? Let's remember that. And whether we like it or not, we're not going to do anything to disturb the peace and quality of our lives in Grenada. No, you shan't be allowed. Nope.
Yes, and
so let's get it together.
The last plug I want to make is be careful on the road. I saw an accident with about 4 or 5 vehicles involved.
Sunday, yeah.
We just need to be careful, and I know we get excited.
In a hurry. No, it's in a hurry.
Please, ladies and gentlemen of this beautiful country, be careful on the road.
You say that as Dr. Keith, man. Beautiful country.
But I love my country without a doubt.
Yeah, really, really do. And again, it's so great to watch his mom. I mean, outside the politics, this is just a blessing, eh?
Oh, man,
you're 99 years old, and there you are,
she's a tower of strength.
And then for him, imagine your mother just is there with you. She have your back. I remember we beating him up morning, noon, and night. But you need to have this sort of support.
He did announce that when she turned that magical mark of 3 figures, he will be a big fit. You see that?
No, but for all the nation, because right now she's the mother of the nation.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's something to celebrate. Well, I mean, come on.
Awesome. And she sits there intently, and she takes in everything. Remember, see, she might lean across and she asked out maybe a question or comment.
I wonder if Dr. Mitchell will reach 99 too.
Lord have mercy. You see all this dirty going out like we done with it for a while.
Anyway, that's another conversation for another time, Brenda.
He's on his way. He's on his way. He's on his way to 99. And doing well. Thank you so much, Senator Daly. Mr. Campbell, we miss you.
We do.
Hurry back. This has been a Perspectives, a Tuesday morning edition. We couldn't have the Monday morning edition. We had some serious technical challenges yesterday morning. And this morning as well, we came on the air half an hour late. We'd like to thank those of you who viewed with us, especially across the platforms of MTV on air and online. Mikey Live, thank you so much, Mikey, for your continuous coverage. Partygrenada, TNR Communications, KG9, and Sister Isle in Carriacou. Good morning, Carriacou and Pretty Maddening people. Good morning to you. And of course, our own Perspectives page. We'd like to thank our team here. Kirk Oliver. Kirk provided our camera and audio services this morning. Nazim Benjamin of Professional Streaming Services. Blondell George, our director, and our executive producer is Mr. Richie Oliver. Senator Diali, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Have a great week.
Yes.
Have a great week.
I met a lady this weekend at Taffy's Bar. And she's one of our biggest fans.
Really?
She says she watches all our programs and she enjoys Perspective, and I was happy that, some people enjoy what we do.
Perspectives have a lot of fans, but a lot of them won't want us to know they're fans. But good morning to all the fans of Perspectives. We appreciate you, and thank you for viewing. All the people who give feedback, really appreciate it as well. I got a long letter the other day about the show, and and people went back to some of our first episodes and things they learned, and it was high in commendation for you and Mr. Campbell especially. One of the things they said was that you guys basically have information on almost anything, and they appreciate that, because the person said what they watch TV for is to learn, not to all the fodder and the banter and the hosts who say things like only crooks or something. So oh Jesus, we reach where we going with?
You have to have those. We bring the other side.
Not on our national TV stations. Nope.
It is what it is. Anyway.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Thanks to my friend Nadia. Good morning. See, she's saying excellent program and discourse. We appreciate it. Thank you so very much. For everyone here, I am Brenda Batiste. Have a good day. Let's be good to one another. Walk good. Try to talk good and delay your fingers. Yeah. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye.